All right, so let's dive right into Charles Duhigg's amazing book, The Power of Habit. Have you ever stopped and wondered why you do the things you do, almost without thinking? You know, how you can finally break that one bad habit you hate or build a good one that actually sticks? Well, it turns out the answers are locked inside this really simple but incredibly powerful pattern that shapes pretty much everything in our lives. And to see just how deep this goes, we're going to start with a pretty remarkable true story. Okay, so meet Lisa Allen. When researchers first met her, her life was, well, not going great. She was 34 years old, significantly overweight, buried in over $10,000 of debt, and she'd been smoking for years. But then just a few years later, she was like a completely different person. I mean, she'd lost 60 pounds, she ran a marathon, got completely out of debt, and was absolutely crushing it in a new career.
So what on earth happened? Did she win the lottery or something? Nope. What researchers found was that this massive, life-altering transformation all started when she decided to tackle just one single habit. For Lisa, it was quitting smoking. This is what Duhigg calls a keystone habit. It's like this one core habit that when you change it, starts a positive chain reaction that just spills over and starts transforming all these other parts of your life. To really understand how one little change can have such a huge ripple effect, we have to look under the hood, at the actual engine that drives our behavior. And what scientists have discovered is this simple little pattern in our brain that turns pretty much any action into an automatic routine.
And it's called the habit loop. Think about it like this. When you back your car out of the driveway, you don't really think through every single step, right? You don't go, okay, check the mirror, turn the wheel, press the brake. You just do it. That's the habit loop in action. It's your brain just running on autopilot.
And what's so cool about this loop is how simple it is. It's just 3 parts. First, you've got a cue. That's the trigger. It could be a time of day, a place, a feeling, anything really. Second comes the routine, which is the behavior itself. And third, you get the reward. That's that little bit of positive feedback that tells your brain, hey, that was good. Let's remember this for next time.
So why does our brain even do this? Honestly, to save energy. It's kind of lazy. This whole thing is handled by this really old, deep part of our brain called the basal ganglia. Its job is to create these little shortcuts for things we do all the time, which frees up the rest of our brain to think about more important stuff, like what to make for dinner or how to solve a big problem at work.
But here's where it gets really interesting. It turns out a simple cue and a reward aren't always enough to make a habit truly stick. Scientists found there's this secret ingredient, this hidden force that really gets the loop spinning and makes a habit automatic.
And to see this in action, we have to talk about Pepsodent toothpaste. Because, and this is wild, before the 1920s, most people just didn't brush their teeth. It wasn't a thing. Then this advertising genius named Claude Hopkins comes along, and in just 10 years, he basically creates a national habit. So how did he do it? This is where Hopkins was so clever. He realized that the reward he was advertising, a beautiful smile, wasn't enough. It's too abstract. The real reward, the secret ingredient in Pepsodent, was that cool, tingly, minty sensation it left in your mouth. That feeling was the thing people's brains actually latched onto. It's what they started to expect and what they missed if they skipped brushing. And that, right there, is the secret ingredient, craving. The habit loop really locks in when your brain stops just reacting to the reward after the fact and starts to anticipate it, to desire it beforehand. That craving is the engine that truly makes the habit run on its own.
Okay, so this is all fascinating stuff, but here's the question we all want answered, right? Now that we know how habits are made, how do we actually change the ones we don't want, the ones that are kind of holding us back?
This brings us to maybe the most powerful and useful idea in the whole book. The golden rule of habit change. And the big insight here is that it is so hard to just erase a bad habit. That pathway in your brain is there, but you can overwrite it. And the rule itself is surprisingly simple. You keep the same cue and you deliver the same reward, but you swap in a new routine. Let's take nail biting, for example. The cue might be a feeling of stress or tension in your fingertips. The routine is biting your nails. And the reward is a specific kind of physical stimulation. To change it, you keep the cue, that feeling of tension, but instead of biting, you put in a new routine, like putting your hands in your pockets or rubbing your arm, something that gives you that same reward of physical stimulation. You're basically hijacking the old loop and giving it a new job. So when you put this all together, the loop, the craving, and this golden rule, it is so empowering.
It takes habits out of this realm of being these mysterious, uncontrollable forces and turns them into something you can actually break down, analyze, and totally redesign.
And this is really the ultimate point. The second you can actually diagnose your own habit loop, the moment you can see the cue, the routine, and the reward for what they are, you're not just a passenger anymore. You suddenly have the power to step in and consciously choose to do something different.
And really, that's the big takeaway here. Your habits might feel automatic, but they are not your destiny. Just by understanding the simple science behind them, you can go from being a creature of habit to being the architect of your own life. So the only real question left is, what's the first habit you're going to start redesigning?